Like Tiffany said, these are the highlights for the fall 2020 policy team. We're just going to be going over the projects that we really enjoyed, just talking about why we enjoyed them and why they were valuable to us. So here are all of our lovely faces on the first slide. But yeah, just as an intro for this, throughout this entire semester, we've done 25 plus projects, probably way more than 25. It's hard to keep track at this point. But I always think that's really impressive, the work that we get done in one single semester. And we did have a really large team, which made everything, it wasn't a burden to us. It was all really enjoyable, and we all got to share work equally and have a good time. And the work ranged from kind of vague general research projects to very specific web page rewrites, can't say that word, and creating whole new web pages to add to our website. And we threw in a webinar in there also, which was really fun. So we'll be talking about those in a little bit.
So obviously a big part of what we do every semester is research projects, and that didn't change for fall. So we worked on 2 research projects that were kind of continuations from last semester, including the Baker Act and juvenile fines and fees. Some of the interesting information we learned during these projects is that in Florida, over $6 million in juvenile fines and fees were assessed in 2018, but only 11% of those fines and fees were collected. And then for Baker Act, another interesting information that I found was that in Volusia County, the number of children with autism who are Baker Acted rose 500% in just 4 years. One of the 2 major research projects we began this semester was about abuse in the foster care system and the problems with how foster care abuse is investigated in Florida. Some interesting information about that is that in 2017, DCF and 17 private agencies sent 170 children to live in foster homes where the state had evidence that abuse had previously occurred. Our last major research project for the semester was for a new webpage about how the first 3 years of a child's life impact their development. So children from ages 0 to 3 are more vulnerable to the impacts of poverty and food insecurity. And food insecurity harms the brain development of infants, causing learning disabilities and other medical complications.
And then this was Emily's slide that she made, but since she's not here, I'll go ahead and present for her. So another aspect of what we did this semester was just searching through statutes, specifically about the Baker Act in Florida and, like Caitlin said, foster care abuse. So for those, it's just kind of, we look through statutes to see what in law these processes look like and where they could be improved, just so we have a clear understanding. And I think the information that we got for the Baker Act was used in Michaela's ODON training, which is really cool to see how that, we helped out there. It always feels good to help out other people. And the foster care abuse statutes, it's just really interesting to see, what Florida actually does and what we don't actually do compared to other states. And Emily said that looking through statutes in this way was really helpful to her to just kind of understand the language, because to understand policy, you just have to practice reading it all the time. It's purposefully difficult to read. So I always think it's very valuable when we get to do these types of projects, looking into Florida law and getting used to the language used there.
So another project we did was updating the civil citations document that we've been keeping track of over the past few years. So for the civil citations project, we updated the 2020 data on the use of civil citations or alternatives to arrests for each Florida county. Knowing the impact serving time can have on youth really makes you root for civil citations. Every time a county had like a low percentage of civil citation usage, it was really, really disappointing. Which is why I made the Civil Citations Hall of Shame. This is every county that had 0% civil citation usage. So we have to really get those counties to start using them. It was really like hard to see a county have a really low number. There should be way more counties on this list because some only had 2%, some had below 10%. But this project was essentially compiling a lot of quantitative data, which provided a break from the reading and research that we usually do. But it was also really interesting. I didn't know that I would be so interested in data like this, but by Baker County, I was like sold. I was like, I need to know what my county's doing. What's your county? Let me tell you what their civil citations usage percentage is. It was really fun.
I agree. I love data mining, and my team knows by now that I love Excel sheets too. So, which I never thought I would ever say in my entire life, but I loved making these Excel sheets.
All right, this is the issues page. So this was the two write-ups that we made for the website, and I think the fines and fees one is still it's almost complete, but the 0 to 3 one's already out. And writing drafts as a team was a first for me, I'll say. And some of this, I am just speaking for myself, but I'm sure some of this applies to some of my teammates here. But I mean, up until now, I've only written essays for classes where the only oversight was myself and the audience was a professor. So my writing could be as convoluted and unnecessarily obscure as I would make it. And I learned very quickly while drafting paragraphs for these issues that that type of writing does not fit whatsoever. So I kind of had to take a step back and focus on what is really essential for the point that's trying to be made, because what use, of course, is the writing when the point is not easily transferable. So a critical skill that I got from this is always being cognizant of what exactly I'm trying to do with my writing. And part of that is clarity of message, understanding like who the audience is for, and etc.
Yeah, I learned a similar skill. We're just learning to write in like an unbiased voice.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
straightforward and plain. Yeah.
It's really useful going forward. So we're really thankful for these
Yeah.
types of projects.
I think the seclusion and restraint webinar was probably the project where the policy team really got to stretch our wings. So the purpose of this webinar was we were presenting on the issue of seclusion and restraint to different state stakeholders. So that in and of itself was a really new experience that we were presenting to. I forgot how many showed up, like at least 50 different people from across the state of Florida. And while creating this webinar, my 3 favorite skills that we got to work on that we normally don't get to utilize while on the policy team were teamwork, public speaking, and specific extensive writing skills, because we were mining through a lot of really convoluted and complex concepts like trauma responses and how to regulate behavior in small children and proper policy management. So being able to kind of pare that down in a way where it was really easy to understand and we got our argument across in an effective manner, I really enjoyed that. And I think like a lot of us want to go into policy, so being able to practice that public speaking and conveying complex messages in an easy to understand way was really great. And I don't think we've worked together as much as we did during those 2 weeks. So it was by far my favorite project.
Yeah, it was really fun. And for me, like, this was probably my favorite project by far because I love learning about the topic. I'm going to be working with special needs kids next year. So it was really cool to learn about the topic and I don't know how to advocate for that population, and learning about just the different ways to manage behavior in a way that's more positive rather than punitive. So I really enjoy this project too. And that is all.